welcome to the show. And if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you get updates for future episodes. If you're a fan of the Sunset Strip music scene, you'll definitely want to stay tuned for my next guest. But speaking of the Sunset Strip scene, my guest today, Howard Teman, was a part of that as well. He played music with many bands in that era, and he also designed t-shirts for the bands. He now has a tattoo shop in California where he's done tattoos for many big name celebrities, and I don't want to give anything away, but he's got some great stories. And if you're a fan of my show, I think you're going to enjoy this one. I definitely did. Check it out. Please welcome Howard Teman to the Chuck Shoe Podcast. How you doing, Howard?
I'm groovy like the movie.
Groovy like the movie. I've never heard that one. I like that. That's great. So, art. You're very interested in art stuff. Now, when I have a theme of this podcast, like success and people doing amazing things. I think you've done some amazing things. It seems like one theme is just people become obsessed. And I think I heard you talk about, even as a kid, you weren't interested in like watching TV and stuff. You would rather be doing art stuff. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. Well, the family would sit around and watch TV, and I thought it was a little just waste of time. But so I'd always have a drawing going while, I always have a project, like a theme or something like that, which ended up kind of like being my posters later on. But like, I wouldn't just draw like little doodles. I would draw like big scenes and stuff like that. And always have something going, like a project going while the family watched TV.
That's really cool. Now, so does that get expensive as a kid using those like different supplies and things? Did your parents, were they had enough money to pay for that? Because that's something that's always a concern for me with kids who are really artistic. What if they can't afford the supplies?
Yeah, well, all you need is a pad of paper at that point and like colored pencils, and nothing too elaborate back then.
Nothing too elaborate. Yeah, because some of those stuff today, I mean, I look at what kids are buying. I bought my niece some art supplies. I was like, man, this stuff's expensive.
Yeah, that's true. But if you go to like garage sales and stuff like I do now, you find all that stuff that they bought for the expensive stuff they bought for their kids selling for like $1 and stuff like that, if you need supplies.
Yeah, okay, well, that's cool. So then you grew up in San Francisco and you started doing the band Fliers. So I think people that listen to my audience probably know this concept of flyering and how big this thing was in the 80s. But just explain this and tell me about some of the flyers that you made. I think the coolest ones I've seen are the ones that Warrant did. Warrant had some really creative marketing ideas with their flyers.
All right. Well, back then, of course, there was no computers, so you had to do all cut and paste. And, it's kind of hard to even find a photocopier back then. So I don't know, I would draw them up and try to make just like my early sketches around the TV, like theme things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a band called Head On back then up in San Francisco, and I would do all the flyer work until later on we got a manager named John Schneider, who's Rob Schneider's brother. And,
seriously? Rob Schneider, Deuce Bigelow? It's his brother, seriously?
Yeah. His brother used to manage our band. And they had a third brother, and he was a cartoonist. And so he would actually draw cartoons of our bands, like comic books. That was kind of cool.
That's random. Wow, that's fun. Yeah. So then you start working for this company called Great Southern Merchandising, and you design all these T-shirts. You're only 23 years old at this point, and you're designing shirts for Cher and Bon Jovi, Iron Maiden. I mean, that sounds like some of the coolest work that you could ever do at 23, especially. I mean, I would have loved a job like that if I had any artistic talent. But what are some of your favorites that you did design for T-shirts?
Well, that was really cool because there was like 3 big companies back then. That was before there was all those indie labels and stuff like that. There were 3 main companies doing all the merchandising for all the shirts, like all the tour shirts. There's Great Southern, which I work for in Los Angeles. Bill Graham Presents up in San Francisco, and Brockham in New York. So they just had a slew of work, and this is back when rent was $200 a month.
Yeah,
and I would do like 1 or 2 a month, and they pay like the biggest I ever got was like $1,500 for one. But there was just the sketches, and then they would end up sending it to the arts bar, and they would color them. But I did my Scorpions one was the biggest seller for the company. It was just like a mechanical scorpion with a sexy girl riding it with a whip, that kind of stuff. That was one of my favorites. And I got to do one more for the road for Lynyrd Skynyrd, which was really cool. And I just made it space age, like their original album cover, but just made it really space age with, just weird dimensions and stuff like that.
Have any of these shirts like the Scorpions one, if that's like one of your biggest sellers, can people buy like a reprint of that, or would they have to get the original one off eBay or something?
That's a good question. I wouldn't know that. I used to later on, way after that gig ended, I would go to the stores on Hollywood Boulevard because I lived right up above the Chinese theater there, and I would see some of my shirts every once in a while in their like big array of shirts. So I guess they were just maybe clearance stock that they were getting rid of, and they just ended up there. I don't. Otherwise, I wouldn't know where to find them.
Because that's got to be a nostalgia thing for a lot of people that like owned that shirt. Or like, I'll never forget the kid that would wear like a Warrant Cherry Pie t-shirt in 8th grade. I was like, oh, that's that kid's so cool. You know, and like all those, like there's certain shirts. Like I remember this one kid, he had a Motley Crue Dr. Feelgood shirt, and it had like it said fuck on the back or something. We thought it was the coolest thing. And he'd put a sweatshirt on. Then when the teachers weren't looking, he'd take the sweatshirt off. He's like, check out this shirt. It says fuck, you know? So yeah, I think that'd be cool if you could reissue some of these.
Yeah, that would be true. I'm not in the t-shirt business, but yeah, that would be great. I have a lot of designs.
Yeah. Well, so what about the posters? You're still selling the posters, right? Those are still for sale.
Yeah. I have my own website, but I also have a distributor called Studio B, and they're in Ohio, and they sell lots and lots of posters of mine. I've been working them probably over 25 to 30 years, believe it or not. And I get my quarterly check. They just print them up and sell them. And I had a really good quarter. Last quarter was incredible. They sold over just for 3 months. They sold 6,000 of my posters. So they still are selling big time, especially the Rock and Roll Theater. That's my biggest selling poster. And I drew that all the way back in 1995, which was I probably have 35 to 40 posters now. And I still, if you put all those poster sales together, it doesn't add up to the sales of just that one poster that I drew all the way back in 1995.
Yeah. So explain this poster. It's basically a black and white drawing of like every rock star, like all the biggest rock stars all in one picture. It's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I drew it. I originally started drawing when I drew a poster called After Hours in the After Hour. And that was all the dead rock stars in heaven. That all came from me smoking a joint going, boy, it'd be great to have a picture of all the rock stars who died of overdoses up in heaven, still partying, still doing all the drugs, like they never learned their lesson or whatever. That was the whole theme of it. But then once I started drawing it, I couldn't like leave out John Lennon and stuff who didn't die of overdose. So it just ended up being like a Heaven's Bar and Grill. But in that poster, I tried to like draw them as what they looked like when they died, you know, so they weren't in their prime. So the whole motivation of this one is just to draw everybody looking the best they ever did, the coolest, like the version of like Keith Richards, you know, with all the hair and like Dial on Main Street kind of stuff. And I just couldn't stop. So I just started with Mick Jagger in the middle. And then I drew next to Mick, I drew Steve, Aerosmith singer,
Steven Tyler?
Tyler, thank you. My brain was not working. He was like the American Mick Jagger, you know, the same look. Then I said, who's the new Steven Tyler? It's Axl Rose. So I put him next to him, and I just kind of put people on who kind of related to other people, and it just grew into this huge thing. I drew it on a huge board.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that one's really cool. And then you had you have ones of the Beatles and Jerry Garcia. Now, how does that work? Because like the Beatles one, it has the Beatles logo. Did you have to get permission or what? Because our society's so litigious. Oh, you do have to get permission. Okay.
Of course. No, I didn't.
No, you don't. So because our society's so litigious, I'm surprised they don't try to sue you or something. Or
well, they haven't yet. Excuse me, they haven't yet. But I talked to a few lawyers, and they said, especially like the Rock and Roll Theater poster, it has over 165 people on it. Yeah. So if they sued me, they'd have to sue me a cease and desist, and further likeness, they would have to get 165% a percentage of the poster sales. So it's really not worth it for them to sue me. You know, and those like Beatle posters, and also the lawyer said, if I do end up getting sued, it'd probably be the best thing for my career because it would like good publicity. You know, like
good publicity. I like that. Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about your music career. Like you said, you were in this band called Head On. You started out as a drummer. First, I think you were in a band called Axis, but Head On.
How do you know all that?
I heard you talking about it, but yeah, Head On. This is cool because I listened to the song today, Nothing to Say. That was like a really good song. So tell the story of this band, because you said it was just bad management or something, and it seems like a talented band.
Yeah, it was a great band. We had this. Well, we started off playing like the old Waldorf and stuff like that, little clubs. That's a big club in San Francisco, but little clubs like Boston Pizza, all this weird shows. And we got attention from when we played the Waldorf, like a Metal Monday or something like that. And we got attention from one of the guys who worked at the old Waldorf, which is a Bill Graham concert thing. He decided to manage us. Little did we know he's a complete alcoholic, crazy guy, but he got us in the door. And then Bill Graham hired us to do a few shows. Like we opened up for Ted Nugent at this Sacramento Civic Auditorium, and we were 17 and stuff like that. We opened up for Cheap Trick up in Humboldt County at a huge, like 2,000 or 3,000 people. And that also, we were just kids and stuff like that.
Wow.
And this is when they were huge. Cheap Trick.
Yeah.
That was a big show. So, and then we play the old Waldorf, and we also got attention from like the Stone, the Keystone family. I don't know if you know, there's 3 venues up in San Francisco. There was the Keystone Berkeley.
Okay.
Palo Alto, and those are like the only real big places to play. And we just got a following. And we continued to work with this bad manager who he was horrible. Like he had to pay his rent, so he booked us at a show to pay his rent. We never got paid, all that stuff.
Oh, shit.
Then we finally got that John Schneider guy who kind of helped us a lot. And then we got like full page ads in band magazines and stuff like that. And we were on our good trajectory. And then I got thrown out of the band.
Oh, no. What happened?
A guy named Mike Varney?
That sounds familiar. What?
Shrapnel Records.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. He came in and he did this not only to our band, he did this to a lot of bands up there. He would come in and try to dissect and say, I could put in this drummer and I'll sign you guys and we'll do like a heavy metal album or something. They listened to him for some reason. And they ended up trying to find another drummer. I don't think they ever played out live again. So it kind of destroyed the whole band.
Wow, that's too bad. So, but anyway, so you're in LA and you're in a bunch of other bands. I saw this video of you backing up this band called Lame Flames at the Cheetah Club. Have you seen that video?
No. I've seen some of the videos. Sure.
Yeah, it was like this female band. It was really interesting.
Those are my 2 brothers and I.
Oh.
Band. My little brother's playing bass and my older brother playing guitar. We were in a band called Sandman and the Apes. And
Yeah. And
Those
Sam you said he was kind of like a David Lee Roth, like it was like the 2 Live Crew type lyrics and stuff. And
yeah. Wow, you've done your homework. You know more about me than I do. The Lame Flames is funny because we just went to a picnic that they had in Los Angeles called it was the barbecue of the Loyal Order of the Water Buffalo. And that was like a big group of people in LA back in the 80s that like everybody was in it. There was like, I don't know how many members. It seemed like there was 100 members, and they're all males, just like the Flintstones, the Loyal Order of the Water Buffalo. They had a poobah.
Did they have the hats, the big horns?
The poobah did, and like all the guy like Charlie Sexton was one, and Fishbone, and all the big bands back then, Little Kings, Little Caesar. All the members of those bands were in this Water Buffalo thing.
Huh.
And the Lame Flames were some of the girls that hung out at the Water Buffalo functions. And that's how back then, that's the 2 brothers and I, we were just like a great backup band. So the Lame Flames hired us to play in that band. But we just had a reunion. They had a reunion and I showed up and there was a lot of Lame Flames there. There weren't 3 of them. There was a bunch of them throughout the years.
Okay.
There was always 3 of them at a time, but there was they had a group of Lame Flame alumni.
Yeah, so explain this. You said you were living in the Houdini mansion. Like, who's paying? Is it a bunch of people living there, or who's paying the rent on this?
It's actually across the street from the Houdini mansion.
Oh, across the street. Sorry.
It's called Steinway Mansion, and rumor has it that they originally built the place for the King of England when he succeeded for being king, and he moved here with the Hollywood actress. They built this house for him, but he never moved in. So this house had a huge history. Actually, like the Beatles supposedly had a party there. Wow. Jimi Hendrix played there. And now it's owned by Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin ended up buying it. But when we lived there, it was owned by this really cool lady named Fanya. And she was one of the first Black lawyers in LA during the 50s and stuff like that. And she was just the coolest lady. A few friends and myself were looking for a place to live, and we were driving in. We drove in actually, it was my two friends drove in. I wasn't there. They asked, yeah, are you guys renting rooms? And they said, are you answering the ad? And they said, yes. So we got the whole penthouse of the place. And I was paying like $200 a month there. That's right, $200 a month. For years I lived. Then I moved my two brothers in, and that's where Ape headquarters was. And the greatest thing about that is right up in Laurel Canyon, right up where all those movies or documentaries are made about the rock scene in LA.
Yeah.
I mean, all the musicians were right around that same area, the same like half a mile.
That's
radius.
crazy to think. $200 in a penthouse near this. Yeah. Like I can't even imagine what that rent would go for now. Probably not 200.
Yeah, nothing like it.
So yeah, so
we'd have parties there, and the greatest thing is that it wasn't, because it was in Laurel Canyon. It wasn't LA County, and it wasn't LA City. It was LA County. So no cops could come up there. Only sheriffs. So we'd throw these parties where we set up huge, like a stage setup, and you could hear us down like from Sunset Boulevard all the way up, because it would echo through the hills, and we'd have like huge Sunday parties where every band would play, and everybody that Cat House people, the band, the old club Cat House.
Yeah. They
would all come to it was during that time.
So like Ricky Rockman and Faster Pussycat and all those guys.
All those people were there. I got videos of that.
Oh, you have videos of that?
Yeah.
Have you posted any of those?
What's that?
Have you posted any of that stuff online on YouTube or anything?
Scotty Slam on Facebook has posted a few of them.
A few of them? Okay.
If you want to look at them, there's video of that stuff.
Yeah.
Scotty Slam used to be in the Anchormines. You know that band?
Which one?
Are you an LA guy? Or?
No.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Seattle, actually, and now I'm living in Phoenix. So.
Oh, Phoenix. Gotcha. Yeah. Look up Scotty Slam.
Okay.
He's a great drummer. He's playing for Circus of Power now.
Oh yeah, I know Circus of Power. So you're in some other bands, the Long Necks, Medicine Show, but then this is a cool story. So Steven Adler breaks his hand playing in Chicago. So you got to fill in with Guns N' Roses at the Whisky.
Yeah.
Tell me about that show. That must have been amazing. Was this before they had like even put out Appetite for Destruction, or?
No, Appetite was definitely out, and they just got back from touring with Aerosmith. As a matter of fact, that show I played, Slash was wearing an Aerosmith jacket that's Joe Perry gave him, like the cool jacket. Yeah, they were at top of their fame, and they just did it. It was they were a fundraiser for something. Desi Benjamin put it on, a LA guy. And it was a lot of people played. I think Faster Pussycat might have played that show too. And Guns N' Roses was supposed to play. It was like the big rumor, and the place was just jam-packed to the gills. Well, we were all up at the mansion, kind of like learning the songs. Duff was over there teaching me, and we had a big party over there. And they gave Duff the call, come on down. So we go down there. There's probably about 20 of us all coming from up in Laurel Canyon down to the Whisky. And you couldn't even get near the place. So when we got there, Duff was like, okay, we're ready. This is Howard. He's playing drums. And the guy at the door, and he's saying, we can only let you two in. And Duff said, fuck it. If they can't all get in, we're not playing. And so they said, well, we can't let them in. So we went back to the mansion. We said, Guns N' Roses is not playing. And we started drinking more. And then we get the call. They can come in, get down here. So
yeah.
Down there. And by this time, I'm drunk as shit. But
shit.
Pleasantly fun. And we got in. They rushed me back. And in the dressing room, Izzy is trying to teach me. So we're opening with a song called I Used to Love Her, But I Had to Kill Her.
Right.
And that album had not come out yet. And I never even heard the song.
Did you do the acoustic version, or are you doing like an electric version?
No, full blown. I used to love her. Real fast. Out drumming. And so they're teaching. I got video of that. Them like teaching me all this stuff backstage. It's just crazy. All of them, Axel standing around me singing. They're teaching me. And they even had, Del James's?
Yeah.
Yeah. Del ended up sitting behind the amps, sitting next to me. And then the roadie from Hell was on the other side, and they were cueing me because they knew the song. And I had to start 1, 2, 3. So
you're trying to learn these songs, and you're drunk, and it's
just pleasantly drunk.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
It ended up, you can watch videos of that. If you go on YouTube, you could just look up Guns N' Roses Whisky 1987, I think. And just type it in, and it has like a few songs up there. And if you look closely, you can see Del behind the amps and the roadie from hell over there going, stop, go. It's really funny.
Oh, that's great. So then they invite you to play on that album. You do the laugh on Used to Love Her, right? The ah, ha, 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 like, right?
Yeah.
And then do you do percussion as well on the song?
Well, that was kind of like a drunken party at the studio, and I just set up timbales, and they had a whole bunch of shakers and it was just like a lot of people playing the percussion on that, and that's where I went in the mic right there.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that was another drunken party.
That's really neat. So, and then Duff asks you to help out with the song "So Fine" on Use Your Illusion too. You play piano and drums on that one, right?
Well, I did originally when he asked me to do pre-production on it in that Rumbau studio, which was Captain and Tennille's, I think, studio that they recorded all their albums at. And Mike Klink was producing as normal. So this is when Guns N' Roses were all on hiatus. They took like a summer off. And that's when Axl went to Paris and all that, got that big fight and all that. So nobody was in town. So Duff asked me to come down and help him with the song "So Fine." And so we laid down the bass tracks where I did play drums, and then he did guitar and bass and sang on it, and I played piano. And when I was recording that, or like the last day, everybody from the band came into the studio because that was the first day they were back together after this long break, and everybody was talking about all the shit they did. And like I said, Axl got in that big fight in Paris that was newsworthy, and everybody was asking. It was really cool because I got to be a fly on the wall and hear all their stories and what they did during the first big break after the band, because the band was such a fast momentum,
What did they do? What were the stories?
Oh, I can't remember. I really don't remember all of them, except for I remember the Axl story. So Axl is the one who actually heard the tracks that we did. He says, "That's really great. Will you do that on the album when we record it?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, of course." So ends up Steve Adler drives me home that night, and he's talking about how excited he is because they're going to be working on the new songs and all this stuff. And then like a month later, Steve gets kicked out of the band. And so they have to go through like a whole year of getting Matt Sorum. And so the album was put on way hold. So I'm like, I'll probably never hear about that anymore. Sure enough, a year later, I get a call, Axl on the phone. "Hey, Howard, you ready to do your tracks?" I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I heard that. So do you think he just remembered that, or did he keep some sort of journal or something? Like,
I don't know, but
because this is not when the band was sober, right? I mean, this is when they're all kind of fucked up. So like, how did he remember a year later? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I was very impressed with that. And that's the kind of guy, a lot of people give Axl a lot of shit for his crazy character and all that, but he is a really stand-up guy, and he says what he does what he says, and he says what he does, that was really impressive.
Yeah, didn't you tell the story? This is interesting too. Didn't you see him one time and you were talking to him like years later and you didn't recognize him because he had the braids or whatever?
Wow. I can't believe you know these stories. I must have told him about another thing.
Yeah.
I was just in front of the Cat Club next to the Whisky, and I was sitting there talking to him for a while, or just talking to the group of people. I couldn't even recognize him. And I said, "Is that you, Axl?" Because he just looks so different and crazy. It was a couple of years later.
Yeah.
That was way later than all the times, the recording and all that stuff. That was many years later, maybe 10 years later.
Yeah. And you've played on you've done some other session work. You played on this, one of my, I think it was kind of a cool album, the Rod Stewart tribute album. You played on that one with like John Corabi's on it, Stephen Pearcy, Eddie Money. Like, what was your role on that album?
I think I played with Spike from the Quireboys, who was
great singer.
When the Quireboys would come in town, I was in that band Medicine Show. They were all English blokes, and I was the only American. And we were on Chrysalis Publishing. We had a publishing deal through Chrysalis. And so when we went over to England, we were good friends with the Quireboys, the London Quireboys.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know what they are?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were managed by Sharon Osbourne and all that stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were huge. In England, they were huge.
Okay.
Not so big. But Spike has that real Rod Stewart voice. He
totally
sounds a lot like him. They were they were good like rock and roll band, like an old time Rolling Stones, Rod Stewart rock and roll band. And so when we went to England, the EMI was not very good with their money. Chrysalis wasn't very good with their money, so Spike put us up in his council flat, which is like a subsidizing housing in Brixton. So that's where we stayed. So we became really good. He was just a nice guy like that. So that's where I got to know him. And I was playing drums in Medicine Show, but somehow he found out I played piano. So when they came over to Los Angeles, they needed a keyboardist. So I sat in with that band. And that's how I got to be with Spike when he needed a McLaughlin kind of piano player. Then I would sit in for them. That's how I got it.
That's really cool. And what else? Is there other session music work that you've done? I
said McLaughlin. Ian McLagan, whatever his name is. Ian who played with Rod Stewart. That piano playing. Yeah. When you need that style, that's the style of piano playing I play.
Okay, so you played with him?
No, just with
that style. But
I just misquoted what I said when you need. I said a McLaughlin style piano player.
Okay.
McLaughlin or whatever.
But is there other musicians that you've played with? Because I think it said on your bio that you've played with some A-list musicians. Was that it, or is there more than that?
Oh no. When I switched over to piano from drums, being that kind of a piano player, this is great. This is segueing really nice. Playing that kind of style of music, a lot of bands, that was the style of music that was getting signed then, like the Rock City Angels and, like more like the Rolling Stone type bands in LA, like gypsy looking. And since I played that kind of piano, a lot of bands would put me in just to play that like for a song in a recording session or something like that. I also got hooked up to, the New York Dolls.
Yeah.
My brain is going a little crazy. I can't remember his name. The guitar player just passed away, Sylvain.
Oh.
I played in his band for a couple of shows.
Okay.
That was a good gig. And just I would sit in like Bang Tango, we had a little band, what were we called? The Vagabonds. Just a lot of bands that I played with playing piano, like that Honky Tonk, the Hippie Shakes, just a million little like Rolling Stone style bands.
Are you still doing that just for fun every now and then, or?
I haven't for a while. Maybe the last 5 years I've slowed way down, but yeah, I mean, we just had a big 12-year anniversary of the tattoo shop, and I always set up a piano outside. We set up the whole band set, and you sit with all the old folks that are still alive. We do a lot of jamming.
That's cool. So let's talk about the tattoo shop. It's called T-Man Tattoo. It's in LA, and you've it says on your website done work for Pete Rose, Terry Hatcher, Rob Schneider, because obviously is the brother, and James Gandolfini. I mean, geez, those are some A-list celebrities. Yeah.
Well, it's the neighborhood. I'm right downtown Studio City. Like I'm a block away from Radford Studios, which is CBS.
Okay.
That's where Seinfeld and all those things. Actually, Seinfeld came in here.
Did Seinfeld get a tattoo?
He didn't get a tattoo. He just came in. The good story about Gandolfini was he came in.
I didn't know he had a tattoo. Yeah.
Well, it's a funny story, but a sad story.
Oh.
It was a Saturday. The place was packed, and I'm tattooing somebody with my back to the door, and somebody said, "Hey, James Gandolfini just walked in," and I turned around. There he was standing right there. And this is a very small shop, so it was like, wow. And
it's fucking Tony Soprano right in your shop.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I am so happy I found you because I need a tattoo, and I just moved into the neighborhood because I'm recording at the studios. And he goes, filming in the studios. And he said, I have to go somewhere, but I will be back in like 3 weeks. And I want to set up a tattoo appointment with you. And I said, wow, that's great. I'd love to do that. I said, you're in my store right now. Can I take a picture with you? And he said, look, I promise we'll take it when I come back. And I don't know what got into me. I was just pushy that day or something. I said, look, you're here right now. Make my day. Can I get a picture with you in my shop? And he said, sure. So I took the picture. And he went to Italy and died that week. It was like,
wow,
that was crazy. So
that's so sad, but wow, good of you to push for that. See, that's one of those things where it's like,
sometimes you gotta be pushy.
You never know when something, it's like if there's something you really want or to do in this world, not just get a picture with a celebrity, but anything like that. Oh,
That's
this
true.
can wait. Sometimes things can't wait. That's a sad story, but cool that you got the picture. Wow.
Right. I was just listening to Dave Grohl on Howard Stern, and he said the same thing happened, that Leslie West from Mountain, the amazing song player, called him, or they got a hold of him somehow, that he wanted to talk to Dave Grohl because he wants to do a project. And Dave Grohl was so excited about it, but he put it off a week to call him, and by the time he called him, he passed away. It's another same story, kind of like what you just said. If you think about doing something, jump on it.
Yeah. So what was Gandolfini? What was he gonna get? Because, like I said, I don't think I knew that if he had any. Was this going to be his first tattoo?
I don't know about that, but we speculated on that. We think it might have been he just had a kid with a new wife, so we're thinking that he wanted to get the new kid's name on him or something like that.
Okay. So I don't have any tattoos. So what would be your advice if I was going to get a tattoo? What's a good first tattoo? Like a good place, a good size, a good image?
If you get a big battleship on your chest to start off with, what do you think? Full size, and then wings on your back. Anything you want. People ask me what should I get and everything like that. And I always tell them all tattoos are a little time capsule in your life. So don't try to put everything in one tattoo, which I did. Like I have a stupid tattoo of everything, like a piano. I've got a lion on top of it. I got a snare drum with a Mickey's 40-ouncer on top of it. It's a mess. So you want to just get something that's not that. You don't have to put all this thought in it. Just get something that's very attractive to your eye.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Don't worry about it, and don't worry about if you're going to like it later. It's something that you like right now, like we were talking about. Just jump on the moment.
Yeah. And, have you ever?
I did this one on myself, and it's a tiger on top of a ball. I just started tattooing. I don't know if you can see.
Oh yeah. That's
it's
cool.
Old. 17 years old. Oh. But it was my first tattoo I tattooed on myself. I just started tattooing, and I just said, that's I was just looking through a book of, I knew I wanted an animal, and I had this real book of animals, and I just saw it. I don't necessarily even, the day before I would never even think of getting a tiger, but I just saw that image. I said, that's cool as shit. So I put it on me. It was my first tattooing, and I was so nervous. I sweated, and the whole pattern washed up. I'm in the middle of it. I'm like, oh shit. So yeah, that was a very harrowing experience, but I just calmed myself down and finished it. So
what's the weirdest tattoo that you've ever gotten?
Boy, if you want, you got to go on the website to see some of them. They're blacked out. For a little while, I worked for this company called mytattoogirls.com. And they were kind of like what Suicide Girls is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like emo girls.
Yeah, the emo girls, like model girls, and kind of on the risque side. Well, this was very risque on the level of almost porno, But it's we tattooed girls, and so I didn't do it in the studio I was working in at that time. I would go to their studios, which were porn sets, and I would do all kinds of tattoos and every part of the body imaginable. And there's one I think is my classic one where I turned a girl's private areas into a Cheshire cat with the mouth open and the tongue. And I think it might be on my website. I'm pretty sure it's censored, But
so if
I did a whole bunch of crazy ones for them.
So if they're getting that tattoo, you're like a doctor, right? It's like you have to be professional and.
Yeah. After a while, let's just say I was hard at work every day. No, it was good. At one point, sometimes they'd have spreaders, naked girls on each side spreading parts of the body to get into the areas.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure do you ever fuck with people though? Like if they want okay, give me the Buddhist symbol for peace, and you give them, it says something different, or, cause that's always my fear if I was going to get some sort of symbol like that, oh, this means this, but it's a lot of people will say actually that, that's a Kung Pao chicken or whatever.
Right. Beef and broccoli. No, that's a funny story about that, is that we used to have a Chinese restaurant across from the first shop I worked at, and we always sent people over there to have them write it out in kanji. And we found out later that it all said, eat at MJ's Chinese shop. It didn't really was a joke. Yeah, no, with the internet now, you can just type things in.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Just type, and you'll get a million different kanji. Sometimes they're different, but you kind of can average them out and figure out this one must really mean it because there's 90% of them is this symbol where, so you could just type in, if you want to do Roman numerals, just type in 1958 in Roman numerals and it pops right up. So everything's checkable now.
Yeah. Do people ever come now? If people come in totally hammered, do you have to turn them away, or do you say, it's business?
Now that I'm an older guy, I don't really work those hours anymore.
Okay.
I work from like 11 to 5. that's
someone else's problem.
Yeah. And the guy who taught me, Lou Bone from Art to the Bone, he was my mentor. He said that he would hate tattooing real drunk people because they always tell you they love you the whole time and they tip you really big. And then the next day he actually had one guy gave him like a $200 tip, and he came back and goes, I want my tip back. I was drunk. And he said, get the fuck out of my shop. That was the greatest thing too. He told me about times of tattoo shops before Yelp and stuff where you could just say, I would love it when he was teaching me how to tattoo. Somebody would irritate him and go, get the fuck out of my shop. And you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I like that. The days before Yelp. Yeah, those are good old days. Interesting. Yeah. Fun times. Well, I like to wrap up each episode with a charity. Is there a charity or nonprofit or something, a cause that you like to get behind?
I'd probably say Planned Parenthood or something like that. Keep that up.
Okay.
Going,
All right. I'll put that in the notes along with your website, and people should, if I'm in the area, maybe I'll stop by and get my first tattoo. It'd be kind of scary, but where is your shop exactly? Is it on Sunset Boulevard or where is it?
We're the Sunset Boulevard of the Valley, Ventura Boulevard.
Boulevard. Okay.
The one in Tom Petty's song.
Oh yeah.
Down Ventura Boulevard. It's runs parallel to Sunset, but just over the hill, and it goes all the way from, all the way deep to the east of the LA, all the way down to way past Calabasas. If anybody knows what that is, it's a long stretch, and it's pretty much the main stretch of the valley. And I'm right, Laurel Canyon again. I'm 1.5 blocks west of Laurel Canyon on Ventura Boulevard.
Okay.
Studio City.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks. I'll put that all in the notes. Thanks for doing this, Howard. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, very nice meeting you.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Phoenix ain't that far. Come out and get a tattoo.
Okay, I will. I'll see you later.
Don't pussy, get a tattoo.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, well, that was a lot of fun. Howard is such a fun guy to chat with, and some of you other podcasters who listen to the show may want to reach out and have him on your show. Make sure to check out his website for more information, or go get a tattoo at his tattoo shop and tell him I sent you. Howard Teman, Teman Tattoo, and maybe I'll even get a tattoo the next time I'm in LA. I mean, he sounds like he's willing to do one for me. So if you enjoyed this episode, tell a friend, and make sure to subscribe or follow the show wherever you watch or listen, or follow me on social media or however you want to keep track. But I got some great episodes lined up. So have a great rest of your day, and remember to shoot for the moon.